Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's your favorite paranormal investigator. My name's Tim Sedano over here, and this is Paranormal Insight. Today on the show, we're going to be discussing disclosure, UFO disclosure, UAP disclosure. I still prefer UFO, but UAP is the official way we say it now, which is, I don't know, why do you got to change it? But you know what? Without further ado, I'm going to bring my guest on. His name is Stephen Bassett. He is the Duke, the oh, I said without further ado, didn't I? Okay, so here he is, the docent of disclosure, Stephen Bassett. Whoops, there he is. Welcome to the show, sir.
Happy to be with you, Tim.
Excellent to have you on again. So, for my audience's sake, I'm going to give you the screen for a few seconds. Why don't you tell them what you're about and who you are and all that fun stuff?
I'm a political activist. Focus is on disclosure, which is a term I use with a capital D, meaning the confirmation of this non-human presence by heads of state. This is what we've been trying to get for 80 years. The government made a decision that they would withhold, deny, obscure, undermine any successful effort to get this truth known to the world. It's a pretty big truth. And it's no longer acceptable. I think maybe in the early years, early decades, you could almost justify it, but eventually it's absurd. So my work is to end this embargo, came to call it, truth embargo, and effectuate disclosure with a capital D. Head of state confirmation. There'll be a first head of state that does it, and then the rest will follow. Most will follow after that. It will be the biggest event in human history. The act of confirming it by a head of state will be probably one of the most important, if not the most important acts ever conducted by a head of state. So that's kind of what I got into 30 years ago, thinking that it wouldn't take too long. 30 years later, we're not there yet. We're close, but we're not there yet. So I'm a disclosure activist.
Hey, thanks for sharing all that. That's fantastic. Now, with this, and having said all what you just said, our president put an edict out to release all that information. It's still being processed, which surprises me a little bit. But do you think it's going to be another redaction farm like we've gotten in the past, or do you think this is actually going to happen?
Well, let's not. Yeah, there are a number of things going on right now. 4 things, frankly, that are very significant historically, with implications to affect nations and people and what have you. One of them is the Epstein files. It's the biggest scandal in history, I suspect. And there's millions of documents and files and so forth, which are being looked at and redacted and what have you. Let's put that over here.
Yeah.
Important, but trivial compared to the extraterrestrial issue. What's involved there is, well, it's just files. It's everything the government has learned, known, researched, so forth, about this phenomena since it obtained craft, physical craft, not made by humans, later than 1947, and possibly sooner, though much more obscure. But the 47 event was pretty clear.
Yeah.
In 80 years, they have been studying more than one craft, dealing with dead ETs, and there is an indication some time spent with live extraterrestrials. Yeah, pretty big deal. All right. And so that information needs to belong to the world. And there has been an effort, a private effort, to try to get that out for decades, but the resistance has been absolutely intense. And so we haven't succeeded in getting the key information out. However, some information has gotten out. There has been an enormous amount of work and effort by researchers that have found files here and files there, and there's been some testimony and what have you. But overall, for most of the last 8 years, the truth embargo was held. Now, the truth embargo is now collapsing fast, and information is coming out. There is legislation indicating files can start being transferred, but that legislation is incomplete. There are members of Congress, members of the cabinet talking to the issue. In fact, what's happened in the last 7 years easily surpasses what happened in the previous 7, from 47 to 2017. So we're in the final phase of this policy of you don't have a need to know, you don't have a right to know, you can't handle the truth, whatever. And we're close to having a confirmation, likely from the president. So that's wonderful. We've broken barriers. We're getting massive media coverage. We've had hearings, everything we could have possibly wanted. We're on the verge of getting that confirmation from the president, who could still do it tomorrow. There's no real barrier. However, it's not the only that's not the only thing going on in the world. In addition to the Epstein files, God bless, but peace be upon him, and the disclosure issue, you have a breakdown in the political system in the United States. It's not working. All of its dysfunction is finally caught up with it. All of the mistakes that have been made in how we conduct our political affairs, elections, how Congress is structured and so forth is all just kind of caught up with this. All of the false limitations have now kind of come together, and we have essentially almost a non-functional political reality, or at least non-functional in the sense that it can generate clear and positive outcomes that are improving the country. That's a serious problem in and of itself, but it's our problem. All right. Not that other nations have similar issues, but it's our problem. And then the fourth thing that's going on, which is now taken center stage, finally, meaning all the other characters have been moved off to the side a little bit, maybe even off stage. The fourth thing that we're dealing with now, and there are many things, but these are the four most important, is that we are now clearly in the ramp up to World War III. Now, that's not a good thing. We have an extremely good, well-studied understanding of the origins of World War I and World War II. Obviously, this is the 20th century. You're able to chronicle everything, archive it, store it. It was a little less clear about the Carthaginian wars and God knows the other wars of ancient times, but the 20th century, we have a very great understanding of how they came about, what happened during those wars, how they were ended. And in spite of this rather significant understanding, we're deciding to do it again. And that's what's happening. Now we are definitely looking at a process leading to World War III, which would have a modest chance of remaining conventional. It could be conventional for a while, but boy, most of the people that are studying this go, it won't stay that way long. It just won't be able to. Once you get to a certain level, everything is in play, and so we're heading toward World War III and possibly nuclear involvement. This is catastrophic. It just doesn't get worse than this. This is what we've been trying to avoid. It is this dynamic between that possibility and disclosure that I have been talking about and purveying since way back, almost to the beginning, around 2000, maybe 1999. I created the paradigm clock, which is to mirror the doomsday clock. It was put together in 47 by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. So I put together the paradigm clock. The paradigm clock is midnight's disclosure, formal confirmation. We know what the doomsday clock midnight is. That's nuclear war. And these two clocks have been kind of side by side, moving forward in time. I sort of maintained the paradigm clock for a while, but finally it's just too much of a burden. The concept is there. Which clock strikes first? Do we have nuclear events as part of an accident, part of a developing World War III? Or do we get confirmation of the extraterrestrial presence, that we're not alone, that there's technology that's in the hands of our government that could lead to interesting possibilities. Which happens first? It's been a race. And right now, we're losing that race. We were not losing that race. We were practically there not that long ago. But things have changed. And now we're losing the race. And the doomsday clock is in the lead. Now, I'm not an expert on geopolitics at a granular level, but I'm not the only one that is saying this. There are a number of pundits and commentators that are starting to talk this way. When you have decisions are being made that are not thought out, bombings are taking place, there are casualties, and we've had certain aspects of what we're seeing now, but not at this level. And so for the I think a second time, the Strait of Hormuz is being closed, but in a way we've never seen. Tankers are blowing up, on fire, and flames in the middle of it. And the impact of that is going to affect almost every nation on the planet. It's going to have all kinds of serious consequences, which are going to require retaliations, are going to require responses. Terrorist attacks are absolutely guaranteed. There's going to be some serious terrorist attacks. Every terrorist group, most of the terrorist groups, rather, operating right now on the planet have all been handled a chit, a license, I guess you could say, to cause trouble, and they're going to. And then that's going to make it worse. And then you have the nature of what is going on, which is very classic in terms of how you get to World War III, is that the decisions being made are resulting in actions which are affecting not one country, meaning you make a decision about country A and country A responds, but rather it is literally spreading it like wildfire. And so as the missiles are flying in the Mideast, not into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but 10, 12 countries, every one, of course, not happy about that. The ability to contain it is slowly eroding. Meanwhile, there's movement over in China that is very concerning. A number of things, including recently clearing the air zones out there for traffic. Not sure why that is. That indicates a potential move on Taiwan, and it's something. Oh yeah, and then you've got talk of the use of ground troops in Latvia and so forth. Those Balkan countries. There's now rumors that there might be an effort to put ground troops in there by Russia. This is all classic build up to a world war. So, gee, did we need that? No. So that's kind of where we are. I'm not happy. But even though the disclosure movement or process has been stalled, I guess you could say, or slightly put aside for a while, it is not completely shut down. There are members of Congress that are still moving forward, making statements. There's still an effort to get more hearings, which could happen. All right. There are witnesses being interviewed. There is legislation in process that could get acted on, squeeze in. There are all the rest that's going on. So we can't rule it out. And then here's the punchline. I'll finish with this. This is, I guess, put this on me. I mean, it's what I believe. Not everybody thinks that way. Is that we still have a chance to end the truth embargo and essentially within a very short amount of time inform the entire world that we're not alone and that we have presence, living presence, not human, that we have actually had access to a number of their vehicles and their technology. We've been reverse engineering it, but mostly we're just not alone. There's still time to get that out. And I would make a case that the world learning that would be about the only thing you could imagine happening that would truly allow everyone to take a step back and to review where we're at right now. In other words, are we heading towards World War III? Wait a minute, we're not alone? You mean they are real? They are here? There's other civilizations. They're engaging us. They travel through the stars. Let's step back for just a second and rethink this whole World War III thing. Maybe we don't want to go there. Maybe we should consider taking a pause, stop firing rockets off or whatever the hell you're doing, or blowing up ships, and step back and think about this. I happen to think that could work. I happen to think if there's anything that would cause this, put a pause on this new round of madness, would be that confirmation, which we've been trying to get. And so many people already kind of know this at one level or another. That will make it even more powerful when it's confirmed. So we shall keep doing what we're doing. We shall keep pressing to get this done. And we can't control these other events, basically. We can only hope that they don't escalate to a point where we go down. We really pretty much end the experiment, this human experiment of having a great civilization and tech and everything else. And yeah, it may take 1,000 years, but then we may reset.
Lots to think about. Thanks for saying all that. First off, I want to welcome folks to the chat. That's Sherry and Michael Kennedy who've joined us. Thanks for they say hello and give you kudos about being spot on. I'm reminded, as you wrapped up your what you were saying there, I was reminded of Reagan in the 80s at the UN, where it was, I think, on the heels or a preface to the whole Star Wars system idea, where he said something to the effect of, if we were invaded, kind of more of a negative connotation in general, but if we were invaded, it would be Earth against, that would be the only way to unite Earth. You're saying something different. You're saying, they're here, we're here, let's, welcome to the new generation. We don't need your silly geopolitical games anymore, because there's a bigger picture to deal with.
Reagan is one of the presidents and said something specific about this.
Yeah.
Every president has known about the ET presence, I assure you, including Reagan. Now, you consider the time, and they were trying to develop the Star Wars program. The scientists were very adamant that the concept that he was talking about in terms of creating this SDI program that would shoot all the missiles down, right? Like now they talk about putting a dome over the country. Basically, it was like we have a defensive system. No missiles can't get through if we set this up. And the scientists were looking at the science of that and saying, it's not going to work, right? It's not going to work. So that was a controversial thing.
Yeah.
And even though the scientists were pushing hard against it, even Sagan, Reagan wouldn't give up. He kept pushing it. And I've always suspected that one of the reasons that Reagan continued to push it was because while there was a legitimate case that it would not succeed as the umbrella of preventing nuclear strikes, it also, though, was a program worth developing in terms of dealing with ETs and possibly needed to defend against them. This is a 2-for-1.
Yeah.
Right. But we can't tell the public about that. I've always suspected that. And if that were true, meaning he was being pitched on two things, the scientists were pointing out when one wouldn't work, but the other one, which he couldn't talk about, was also on his mind. And so that led to the statement, if there was a threat out there,
yeah,
would we not all come together? And God bless him. It was the best that he could come up with at the time. But a simple analysis of that is kind of takes the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Here's the logic. If there is a threat out there from ETs, maybe it'll bring us together for a short time until we're completely wiped out. So not a good outcome. It's like, we'll finally come together and do what? defeat them. I'm afraid that the statement does not incorporate a sufficient understanding of science and physics and what it is to be maybe 1,000 years technologically beyond where
if
you're
not more.
targeting.
Yeah.
So in other words, we're screwed. We're not going to win, but we'll come together for a while and we'll be going, well, let's all hold hands while we all perish. So that's not good, right?
No,
So there's the problem with that logic. All right. And they aren't a threat. The evidence is, I think, pretty solid that they are not a threat. They might be problematic. They might be, cause a little concern. I get that. But the threat that would be a proper threat is not there. So that was Reagan. And now we have a bigger understanding of this issue. The idea of threat is still out there. But in this case, threat is being brought up more in the context of being able to sell it to Congress and to the political process, which is easier to make a decision about, let's get this out, let's deal with it. If there's a potential threat possibility, it's a national security matter, I will talk about it. Whereas before, they wouldn't talk about it at all. In other words, I don't want anything to do with this ET thing, but this potential security threat made it easier for political engagement. While at the same time, what we were learning as that moved forward was, but it's not really a threat. So it was a means to advance the issue. But for some people, the threat issue is always going to be front and center for them, and I appreciate that. But I'm fairly optimistic. The threat doesn't come from ETs; it comes from us.
Right. And on that, we have had, especially post-World War II, when we had more and more nuclear proliferation across the globe, UFOs and ETs have interceded, shut down our nuclear stockpiles, shut down our missiles across the globe, not just the U.S. And do you think if someone says, okay, the button's getting pushed, that there will be an interceding? Is someone from the stars or alternate dimension or wherever they come from will intercede?
It's a good movie plot.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to roll the dice on that.
Okay.
But let's be clear. The shutting down of the nukes is the most significant thing we know about ETs.
Yeah.
And the government has gone to tremendous lengths to keep that under wraps as best they could. One way or another, the government and the military intelligence complex working together have succeeded in not allowing or having no witness to this ever testify before Congress. They've wanted to for 30 years. There was a number of them ready to testify, but the truth embargoes outlived them. So we're losing a number of these witnesses. But there are still living witnesses to the tampering with nuclear weapons, with the shutdown of nuclear weapons. There are researchers that have the documents confirming it in Russia and the Soviet Union. George Knapp got those, and for the first time, that issue was brought before Congress for the very first time.
Yeah.
When George Knapp testified under oath about that research confirming the shutdown of those weapons in the Soviet Union. And I think he did mention the U.S., might even mention Bob Salas's name. Bob and I were sitting there in the audience of that hearing, but that's as far as we've gone. What we need is Bob Salas and Robert Jacobs and a couple of other witnesses, and there's some we don't even know about that I know could come forward to sit down under oath and say to these members of Congress under oath, I was there when our missiles were shut down while a craft was hovering right over the base. And if you want to think that was a coincidence, meaning these missiles, which can't possibly shut down in sequence like that, just happened to do it, and there just happened to be something over the base that night, make your case. Right. And so the world needs to know and have it confirmed, and it can't happen too soon, that entities far more sophisticated than us, far more powerful than our perceived enemies out there in the Middle East, right? Or China or Russia, who could blow us to smithereens. There's so many ways that they could end life on this planet. It's not even funny. And so they are warning us, we need to get rid of these weapons by pointing out that in a larger picture, they're not going to help you. You can kill each other, but you're not going to hurt us, unless you get starships, and that's also an issue which I talk about. But that's what they've done. They have not gone much further than that, unless they're having private meetings with governments somehow behind the scenes and giving them that message directly. Who knows? I don't think so. So this is how it's all tied together. I say there's four things going on. They are, and they're hooked together in a lot of ways. We are in a time that history will be obsessed with for hundreds, if not 1,000 years. This is really, really some historical quality material. And I'm just lucky I've lived long enough to stick with it. Because as we approach possibly a third world war, possibly nuclear war, possibly the end of the truth embargo, confirmation of the ET presence, right? As we're approaching all of that, there are only 4 generations alive on this planet out of 8,000 generations of good old Homo sapiens sapiens.
Yeah.
And so we're the 4 of that 8,000 just happen to be present for this time. And then the question is, how well does it go? It could end incredibly badly, or it could be the beginning of a renaissance of human civilization that ultimately leads to some sort of place amongst a larger group that are, in fact, interstellar.
I'm all for that scenario, absolutely. Let's go back briefly to the hearings and all the great whistleblowers and witnesses that have stepped forward, and the reporters, including George Knapp. Where has Bob Lazar been in all this? Do you have any answer to that? Is he even related to this? Because he kind of is, and he kind of isn't. It's. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Not surprisingly, the history of this phenomena, both on the ET side and the human side, is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
Books and books and books will be written about it. It's even more difficult because, of course, so much is withheld. It's not public, but overall, it's a huge story, incredibly complex. Thousands and thousands of people involved, counting contactees, well, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of counting all contactees, all members of the government that are intersecting with the issue, everybody, just a general public trying to engage the issue and understand it. It's very complex. So there are certain witnesses which would be very strong testimonies under oath, and that's what you want. You want the strongest possible witnesses in front of a hearing under oath with strong information. Others are not as strong. Others are a little more complicated. That's not to criticize them. Everybody's got a different life and a different trajectory. And so, but if your life trajectory, it makes you not as strong a witness, then you're probably not going to be first in line. Bob Lazar has a very interesting and complicated history. Everybody will agree with that. Hell of a story. I mean, I think a movie's in the works. I think a movie's in the works. I don't know if it's a pure documentary. Well, there's been a documentary on him. Yeah. So I'm thinking there's maybe a narrative film on the life of Bob Lazar. I would lean toward, he's not going to become a witness anytime soon, if ever.
Okay.
He could get more interviews. He could get a higher profile. We'll see. But in terms of sitting down in front of Congress, no. He has a complicated history with this issue, and we don't need that. In other words, there are strong witnesses with very pertinent backgrounds and no complications that are able to speak in front of Congress under oath. Believe me, for everyone that's actually testified so far, there's 2 or 3 more that could testify. And so that's the way it's going to go. Okay. Now, I would put my money, if I'm going to put money in a predictive market, I would put money down that the core story for Bob Lazar is true. He was at the base, he did some work, and so forth.
Yeah.
Beyond that, it gets a little strange. And the net result was a very, very complicated life for the guy, and a lot of I think pain, a lot of problems. I don't think it made life any better. But the number of people who have intersected this issue, sometimes involving the government, sometimes just on their own, that have suffered because of it, that their lives have not proved like they would have liked, which includes just about every contactee, is a long list. And so it's unfortunate, but not surprising, given the inability of the human race and the authorities and that run these countries in which these people live to deal with this paradigm shift. It's just been a struggle. I don't know what to say beyond that. We could have done a better job, there's no question, but we just couldn't deal with it. Even though the ETs were doing everything they could pretty much to get our attention within limits, still, we just grapple with it. It is a big deal, I guess. And ultimately, it would work out, except that we have a limited amount of time. Given enough time, this would all work out. We'd acknowledge them. There would be interchange, perhaps, and we would enter a new phase of human history. Except there's a problem. We have entered an incredibly destructive phase on our side, and that would pretty much end this whole thing. I mean, if we get a nuclear war, it really doesn't matter whether we acknowledge the ETs here or not. It's over for a good long time. And so we're racing against the clock. Now, I happen to think that the presence of ETs since 47 and what they've been doing since is actually connected to this problem that we face. We're heading towards nuclear war, and they are literally traveling along with that process, interacting with that process. The two are connected, which is why some people believe ultimately, if we started launching even a tactical nuke, I don't know how they would catch it, but just a tactical nuke shell, which you could fire, boom, doesn't go very long, but it creates a nuclear explosion. How they would stop that, I have no idea. Missiles, but even a tactical nuke could launch a nuclear war, in which case the missiles fly and they could turn them off, which would be their way of saying, look, enough is enough. You idiots, you can see these are useless. We've turned them all off, and now you and us are going to have a long conversation. Kind of demeaning, right? Little dismissive, kind of parent-child thing, but maybe that's what would happen. But I can't convince myself of that. I would, and I don't want anybody else to convince themselves of that, because if you're anybody, including somebody in the highest level of government or military, who has finally convinced himself that, don't worry, if we fire these missiles, they'll turn them off, and then we'll all have some sort of a come together and it'll be fine. Then why are you motivated to try to deal with the nuclear arms race at all? Just build your nukes, threaten them with their, say what you want. It's okay. They'll shut them off. That's exactly what you don't want. And if I were the ETs, I would find that amusing and incredibly stupid. And so I want everybody to assume that they will do nothing if we finally decide it's time to have that nuclear war we've been dying to have since we made the damn things back in the 40s. And of course, that's what we're trying to avoid.
Let's talk about the flip of some of what you just said. I mean, as far as the ETs are concerned, granted, we're probably a funny little planet, like one of their favorite TV shows, maybe. I really couldn't speak to their state of mind.
We're not funny these days. We're getting less and less funny. Go ahead.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we entered the drama section. But there's what's really stopping these entities, beings, whatever it is you want to call them, from just saying, you know what, land on the lawn of every single capital in the world and say, we're here, deal with it. Now what? You can't attack us. Let's have that sit down now because, like you said, parent-child, you've been bad. We're here to correct that. Mm. I mean, realistically, they could have done that 1,000 years ago. Some say they did because that's what the gods were back in the old days. I don't know. Where do you stand on that?
Well, back in the old days, they were just hanging out.
Yeah.
right? In other words, they weren't what you know. It was what are they going to do? You know, say,
Yeah.
look,
Bows
oh,
and
here's the
arrows.
deal, right? We're gonna you Egyptians, you stick with us, right? We're going to build some pyramids for you, and eventually you will take over the world, or what? Now, the sense you get from the histories, which I love, probably minimum of half will prove no, but a good portion is going to be actually connected to ET. So they just kind of hung out and had a good time because naturally they were just viewed as gods. They were all gods. So like ET gods, and they
Yeah.
were doing stuff. Does appear to be awful stuff, but maybe a little disconcerting. And the idea that ETs of some origin were hanging out back then is pretty cool. And Ancient Aliens is that certainly capitalized on that.
Yeah.
Are they the same ETs we're seeing now? Very likely not. All right. Again, if there's 5 species out there, if there's 500, if there's 500, there's 5 million. So
Yeah.
God knows how many species are out there that are capable at least showing up. But fortunately, they don't all show up at once. It's the ones that are engaging us now
Yeah.
that absolutely escalated their presence after the bombs were dropped in Hiroshima. There's no question that prior to Hiroshima in the first half of the 20th century, there wasn't much going on.
That's
Admittedly,
true.
there weren't people with cameras everywhere and looking, but the simple truth is there just wasn't much going on. And then all of a sudden, an explosion of activity directly connected to those bombs being used, built, tested, and used. Could have been built, tested, and not used, but we used them on ourselves, on our own species. So since then, there is an agenda underway, and we don't know what the ET agenda is fully. We know it includes warnings. They warn people in various ways about not good. We know it includes actions like shutting down the nukes. Okay. And beyond that, we don't know much. So they have an agenda. We have an agenda.
Okay.
And that's all we can go by now. And why they don't do this or why they don't do that, they're probably asking the same thing. Why don't you get rid of the nukes? Right? And we would have an answer why we can't get rid of the nukes. So we would say, why don't you do this? And ETs probably have an answer to that. I am looking forward to that discussion. I'm looking forward to ETs giving us long lectures about why they do what they do and why they did and how and all that kind of stuff. And of course, it's going to be translated.
Yeah.
That would be fun. That we would be on the other side of disclosure to have that discussion. But we only know so much about their intentions, and that's the best we can go for.
Okay. Let's dive and we're kind of go semi-conspiratorial here, only semi. I'm going to bring up a picture. I'm sure you're familiar with Charles Hall and
Sure.
his thing. Let me put it up here. So these are the beings he described hanging out with.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from what the way his story goes, these guys are roaming around the desert of, I think, Arizona or New Mexico. I honestly don't remember, but one of the Air Force bases out there, and the brass knew about it. And as he became more involved, not only with these guys, but with the whole government and aliens working together thing, he came to, to understand and realize that there was a relationship, almost an exchange of ideas to a degree. And that Earth, to one degree or another, was a vacation spot, basically. Say, hey, let's go hang out with these guys. Now, I got my own story about these particular beings because I've seen them for myself. I saw them and my audience knows this, I saw them in Santa Cruz, California, at the beach boardwalk of all things. And apparently that's their bag. They hang out in places like Vegas and Times Square, where the slightly odd-looking people can get it's nothing new to the locals because all the kind of odd and strange folks hang out there anyway. But my in seeing these things and then hearing Charles Hall's story on Coast to Coast, it was revolutionary for me. And I tend to lean into the idea that we do have more, I guess you would say, diplomatic relations with these individuals and others like them, including the Greys and reptilians, the insectoids, all those guys. For the most part, I mean, to one degree or another. I don't know how in depth it is, like Charles Hall made it seem, but apparently, at least with my experience, echoing Charles Hall's experience for the most part, my guys are escorted by 2 men in black. They were trying not to look like men in black. They wore different kinds of overcoats on a hot summer's day. I don't know why they were doing it, but they did. And, one was bluish and one was beige. Those are the overcoats. Other than that, black suits, eyeglasses, earpiece in the ear, the whole thing. And these guys were just there, man. I mean, it was incredible to see this for myself. To see these creatures that I only heard about in a story, and then suddenly there they were.
Well, I have to ask the obvious question, Tim.
Sure.
So you're saying that you were on the boardwalk in Venice Beach?
No, in Santa Cruz, California.
Santa Cruz. Okay, same thing. Okay. So, and you're saying that you saw what you just showed me.
Yeah.
You saw that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, not dressed like that. They were disguised, but they had a lot of. There was a little one there. She looked about 12, but she behaved like a 5-year-old. And her what I discerned to be her mother, because there was a hint of a breast under the I call them Jedi robes with the hood and everything that the mother was wearing. The kid was wearing regular old kid clothes, red and white. That was her bag.
Okay, so what specifically led you to be confident that these were examples of the tall whites?
Okay.
What stuck out the most?
The hands were twice as long, okay, as normal everyone else's hands. So that was their knuckle motion. Okay. Mom, I say, had the same kind of hands. And she put them on display because the child was acting out to one degree or another. And she makes a display because her hands were folded up in her sleeves. And then she says, she doesn't say, but she motions, stop, get over here with these long, long fingers now. And then puts her hands back in her sleeve.
So you had a mother and a child.
Go ahead.
These are the two you saw, a mother and a child.
I saw a mother and what I purport to see as a mother and child, yeah.
And then they also had 2 men in black, one on each side?
One on each side of the mother, yeah. Mm-hmm. The kid was out in the open a little bit, playing with other children.
And you were able to easily rule out just having some cosplay.
This wasn't cosplay. No way.
All right. Okay.
And to add to that story, just to add a little bit more beef to what I've told you is, again, I've told my audience about this. One of the men in black does this once the kid this kid stomps over, and I was just so impressed by the behavior. It's like, wow, kids are the same no matter where they're from, And so she stomps over the mom. One of the men in black do this, and a limo out of nowhere just comes screaming around the corner, pulls up. These guys jump in and it screams off. I mean, unsafe driving to the max, but the scramble to get out of there was impressive. I think maybe they saw me.
Did you have your cell phone camera with you?
Back in 2002, no.
2002, too bad. Okay, well, this is interesting. There are countless stories of this type, one way or another, one type or another. Hall's story is intriguing. It's essentially, to clarify it, they were allowed to have a place to stay on that base.
Yeah.
It wasn't like they just chose it. I think it was an arrangement, and there was interaction between them for that reason. Why they needed a place to stay, for whatever, I don't know. It's fascinating story. He's written a whole bunch of books on it.
Yeah.
My jury is out. I can't say one way or the other. I don't have the access to that. But if true, it's highly significant because it gets to the degree in which our government has interacted with these non-humans. Another thing that they would not want us to know about.
Yep.
And we want to know exactly why and what they're learning and so forth. It's another compelling reason why disclosure has to happen. This stuff, you just simply have this stuff going on. If it were done completely secret, in other words, underground, nobody, fine.
Right.
I get it. You still want to know, but when it's happening in a point where people can write books about it, they didn't stop them, right? So it's
Right.
out there in a sense. All of this is not helping the relationship between the American people and our government, which is shredding. I mean, the trust level is just collapsing. Nobody wants to do anything anymore. So overall, it's just not functional. I think it would be great if it was true. So if it ends up being true in a post-disclosure era, I think Charles will probably have a lot of people wanting to hear much more and read his books. That's about as far as I can get on that.
Okay. But I mean, it kind of also goes to my story and Charles's and others, certainly, abductees and those guys. Does go to the fact that we are definitely one under observation, two interacting because we keep hearing about hybrids in some of these abduction cases, and some are saying that's kind of the idea that they're going to introduce the hybrid idea more and more and more and more. Now, this is all speculative at this point because we only have a certain number of people. Granted, it's a lot of people saying the exact same thing, but we don't know what the influence lines are and all that fun stuff. So, sorry, I just kind of lost where I was going with that. But
the issue is there are millions of contactees, I believe.
Oh yeah,
and that's not a lot. We have 8 billion people on the planet. So there is a huge interaction between them and us on what we'll call a scientific biological basis. And we have some idea of why, but there's probably more reasons than we know. And this is extremely significant. Absolutely. And because it's much more, I think, difficult for the average person to take in, it is still off the menu. As we move forward to disclosure, this is not part of the process. It's just not happening. It may turn up occasionally obliquely in some statement made by somebody, but the fact that there are millions of contactees on this planet, hundreds of thousands of which have accounted for their reports, writing them up and sending them to researchers, is simply not part of the disclosure process. And one of the reasons I think the government is resisted, still trying to block it in various ways, is that they view that being confirmed is probably the most disruptive, potentially disruptive matter. They take a very parent-child view of us, because they're so smart and so connected and have such power, and we're basically, just hanging out, living in tents and trying to make it day to day. So it's parent-child relationship, which what's called in loco parentis. That needs to stop. So it's not, they turned off our nukes. We can't let people know, they'll get all scared. No, it's not almost anything. But when you talk about contact, when they confirm the extraterrestrial presence, they are confirming contact. It means they are confirming hybrid children being created. They're confirming the numbers, ultimately, the contactees, who in post-disclosure world can come forward more readily, and then we'll really get a number. And ultimately, there is something going on here related to this very intense scientific engagement of us, which is not clear. And it's a big deal. Now, overall, I know people are going to get upset about it, and they have a right to. I'm optimistic that it will settle down. But if we learn tomorrow that ETs have created, I don't know, 1 million hybrids, the first question is, where are they? And if the answer is they're off planet, we needed to do that. They're off planet for whatever reason, one can speculate, and they're doing just fine. That's one thing. But if the other thing is, well, they're here, right? And then the question is, why did you create hybrids that are going to be hanging out at Starbucks or so forth? That's an interesting. I don't think that's the case, but still, that's a possibility. So this, in other words, everybody's looking around at that point. Are you ET? Are you whatever? And I think our parents in government are concerned that we're not going to handle it well. I give them a few points on that. We may have a difficulty for a while, but ultimately we will learn the agenda. We will get the details, and we'll be able to assess it on its merits. Now, the massive distrust and confusion that's being created by the truth embargo, I think, is probably worse than the disruption of getting that truth out and addressing it, frankly, but that's my opinion. All right. So I have to have a certain respect for the government's concern. When it comes to destabilization, it's not the nukes and their saucers. It's not their tech. It's that biological work that has been there all along, and that is going to be verified the day after disclosure. And those and every journalist in the country interested in this subject is going to want to interview contactees. They're all going to be getting interview requests. People are going to pretend to be contactees in order to get some great interviews.
Yeah,
it's going to be a bit chaotic. It's going to be something, and these reports are going to be coming out. And we're going to really learn a lot more about how they've interacted with us in that way. And I appreciate the potential instability it would cause. However, that instability compares to the amount of instability we are creating on the planet just when our behavior, all right? In other words, people are saying, oh my, in other words, on the one hand, you've got ETs creating hybrid children, right? Which have maybe certain abilities, and maybe there's some among us. Oh, great. That's something I'm really worried about that. On the other hand, we're blowing up schools with human children in them. Yeah. We're committing acts of near genocide, slaughtering children by the thousands, right? Now, if we can handle that and not lose our minds or go running around in the street, and we can handle learning about how the ETs have been dealing with humans, possibly even creating hybrid children, right? I think we can. So right now, our concern should be our conduct, not the ET's conduct. Our conduct is going to determine whether the next 10 years are living hell leading to even worse, not the ET's contact. And so I'm not inhibited much by pursuing this and getting it all out. And I'm hoping that when it is all out, we will have the opportunity to rethink how we are behaving. I mean, we could say, how dare you make the hybrids like that without our permission? And they would say, why are you killing hundreds of thousands of your own children, blowing them to smithereens, starving them to death? And we're going to go, well, it's like you got to break a few eggs, or whatever the hell. So again, I'm always for moving forward. I'm always for the truth.
I'm with you there. Big hello to Rosemary and Kiara and Heidi in the chat. Welcome to the show. Please feel free to ask me or our guest anything. We're here to answer questions. Well, he is anyway. I'm here to help ask them. But let's, you mentioned, and I dropped my pen. You mentioned sorry, let me look at my notes. Oh, okay. You mentioned, okay, so let's say there's the hybrid children thing happening. Is that then going to be the new prejudice, human versus hybrid? I mean, it seems we can't, as a species, we can't really get past our own selves. So, I mean, is that one of the other major factors that, that the aliens that are observing is like, oh, these guys can't get past themselves, are warring with each other. Are they going to really try and pick a fight with us regardless of their ability to win said fight?
Well, again, I don't know about fight. Yeah, look,
Like I said, yeah. I know
if
what you mean.
if hybrids are being created to be amongst us, well, hell, humans can get prejudiced about anything. I mean, we
Exactly.
thrive on it. So yeah, there might be some prejudice. Again, I don't consider this a big problem.
Right.
It'll be what it'll be. Let's deal with it. Let's see how that goes.
Okay.
The prejudices that we have are literally threatening to kill us. Most all wars are based upon prejudice.
Oh yeah.
Weaponized
Oh, absolutely.
and so it's a trait we need to get rid of. We're not there yet. But again, I'm not.
Are
Not
you
on
by
the top
train
of my list.
tracks? I
When you're
just
train
heard the
track,
whistle.
that's the wine train cruising on through here,
Okay,
taking
gotcha.
people to the vineyards to have some fine wine.
There you go.
And Napa is a pretty nice place to be, and I'm happy to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Oh, you're not too far from me. Okay. What was I going to say?
Well,
Yeah.
let's dismiss with prejudice. Let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay, gotcha. Well, okay. One thing that you mentioned, and please forgive me for not remembering the specifics, but in my notes I said secret space program, and I got a story about that too. So what's to say that, and this would be part of disclosure, but do you land that, I mean, or does it resonate with you at all that all this is basically, or potentially, for not, that it's all been a smokescreen because we've already had this relationship, that we already have our own starships out there, we're interacting with aliens. It's basically Star Trek has been happening for the past 40, 50 years. What do you think about that? Do you have anything on that?
I'm not putting my money on that.
Okay.
On that
Okay.
that's a no in the predictive market.
Gotcha.
Maybe 1 cent. Again, the truth embargo. One of the reasons the truth embargo holds so well and thrives is that by its very nature, it just creates a space for all manner of theories to be thrown out there because you can't disprove them. You can't, and if that's the case, they have a certain amount of cachet for a while, and so you got all these theories that come out, get run pretty hard, and that just is a great diversion that maintains the truth embargo. As long as we're running around in circles and not actually going anywhere, well, that's good. So no, I do not think we have our own starships.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean we don't have a space force. We do. We have astronauts. Doesn't mean that we're not trying to weaponize space, that there isn't some agenda for the Space Force. Naturally, absent the truth of the matter, a lot of people attached to the Space Force, all kinds of potential ET possibilities. I try not to chase after too much.
I understand.
And because I know the government wants me to do that. It wants us all to do that. Chase every lead, chase every theory, take it as far as you want to go. The odds are about 2% that what you're on is real. But as long as you're busy and not bothering us, that's good. Right. So no, I don't think we have star travel. I think we could have star travel. I think we're close to it. I think the theory of space and time is already being altered and re-examined in very deep ways. The government, of course, I believe, has been trying to understand that for all these years privately, but there are public physicists that are looking at it. I believe, and it's kind of cool, that you can get from star to star. And I don't know that this is not really science, but it's a feeling I have. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans wanted to fly. They could fly, right? Really fly. They knew birds could do it, but they knew that they couldn't do it. They could flap their arms all day long, and they weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
But the fact that birds could do it all left an opening, possibility, right? And it turns out, after a long time, after 400,000 years of not being able to fly, somebody came up with a way to do it. And it just so happened that when you fully understood the physics, right, of airflow,
Yeah.
right, and pressure and so forth, that a certain kind of wing design creates a pressure differential, and suddenly you got to fly. Now, what if the universe didn't work that way? That an airflow would not create that press, and we could never fly. But lo and behold, we can, and boy, do we love to fly.
Yeah.
And so for all these same years, we live in a galaxy with trillions of stars, trillions of galaxies, trillions of untold trillions of stars. And for all the time that we've existed, the idea that we could go to one is simply out of the question, right? Unless an aspect of this world, just like that aspect of physics that actually allows flight, and so we got to be able to fly, and boy, we fly all the time, allows you to get from one star to another. And there's no logic to it, except that it makes sense, right? It just makes sense. And so the fact that the ETs are so commonly present, and they say they're from the stars, it appears that there is a way to do it. And we are close to being able to do that. Now, let's just say that we are. You can go find the papers, you can go read the stuff that's out there, do a search, and you'll read it, and it's incomprehensible. You can't understand a damn word. But the efforts to re-understand space-time are vigorous right now. Okay, and let's say that you can do it, then we are very close to being able to go star to star. Just like the very early inventors that were trying to figure out how to fly, we're very close to getting that final part together where, oh yeah, you got to design the wing this way and so forth. We're right there. And so we're about to take off and fly, to be able to go interstellar. So we know what happened when we solved that particular problem of flight, which is a wonderful breakthrough. In no time at all, what did we do? We weaponized it. Yeah. We weaponized that cool little physics thing. And before you know it, we had bombers all over the place. Hundreds of thousands of bombers were built. Hundreds of thousands of planes, maybe millions, were built to execute war, to shoot, bomb, blow up, right? Because that's what we do. We've been doing that our entire existence. Yeah. So if this little physics trick that is just outside of our view right now finally comes into focus, and we figure out star to star, you know what we're going to do? We're going to weaponize it, yeah. Right? And at minimum, we're going to load our starships up with weapons in order to protect ourselves, which then, for the first time in our history, makes us a threat to what? Other entities, yeah. For the first time, right? In other words, until we can fly interstellar, we're not a threat to anybody outside the solar system, unless one of the Voyager absolutely bumps into a craft, a billion miles out or something, runs into it while it's, on a rest stop or something. So I can't shake the fact that if we are in fact close to that breakthrough in technology, with the history of what we do with breakthroughs in technology, which is we weaponize everything, right? That it's not a coincidence that the simultaneous development of nuclear weapons and our work towards understanding star-to-star physics, that we have this massive interaction with ETs in this 80-year period. That they all come together beautifully, right? You're going to get star travel. That's good. You're going to build all kinds of bombs. That's bad. You're going to put those bombs on some of these ships that you're going to fly out to. That's really bad. And so we're going to have a come to Jesus moment here, right? In other words, we're not idiots, right? We're very, very talented. We go where we go, and we're not idiots. We're not going to let you fly out into other systems with those starships full of bombs. So we're going to have a discussion. This is the way I've seen this now for some time. I love it. Uh, it'll probably be completely wrong, but still, I like to think of it this way because it makes sense. It makes sense in a way that nothing else does. All the various theories that turn up don't give me the picture that seems to purports to explain this. So I'm down with that. So something big is in the works, beyond even contact, in a sense, beyond even disclosure. There's something big here that involves how would you say, an instructive engagement about the
Okay.
rules of engagement going forward from this point on. And I'm dying to find out exactly what those details are.
And as we ponder those details and with you, I have to take a little station identification break, plus some commercials. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 33 seconds. This is the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and 105.3 in the Gulf Coast. UPRN talkradio.com. Esoteric programming at its finest.
Long ago in the ancient world, the Tribus Omnis Lux, later known as the Tridents, were celebrated heroes, defenders of humanity against unspeakable monsters. Today, they continue that sacred duty in secret, hunting the dark evils that lurk just beyond the shadows. They are the Trident of Light.
And we'll be right back after this. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tim Sudano, host of Paranormal Insight, a weekly video magazine that reaches 500,000 viewers and listeners every week on average, and the number is only growing. Connect your brand with our curious, dedicated audience who want authentic content and authentic brands. For further information on putting your brand on the show, contact me directly at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the show. Today we're going to talk about the strange and the unusual. Check out our Patreon. Get deeper, behind-the-scenes insights. Also, tips into being a better paranormal investigator and other fascinating content. Follow us on Instagram at paranormal.insight. Stay informed on upcoming shows, see what paranormal trends we're following, and help us reach 50,000 followers by liking, following, and sharing. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube at paranormal_insight. Click the live tab to see our latest videos. There we go, and we're back. Welcome to the show, part 2 of our show, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. We're with Steve Bassett, who is a capital D disclosure advocate, letting the truth be known. And we we got started off on an interesting point before this whole Iran war thing broke out, where the president said, "Give him the files," but I don't know. And we discussed that part already. Real briefly, where we left off is pondering what's going to happen once we get out there. I want to share an image with you. This was put together a very long time ago. I'd say late 90s, if not very early aughts, where they were actually talking about a warp drive capable ship, including describing all the physics, all that fun stuff. And you said something along the lines of, okay, so we're probably going to weaponize this at one point or another. Makes sense. Yeah. We're human and we're weird and we like to blow stuff up. Or dominate or conquer or whatever it is you want to call it. But one of the things you also mentioned is there's probably going to be, as you put it, a come to Jesus once we get out there, it's like no, 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 no. So, are you saying that there's going to be kind of a, well, the day the Earth stood still, there was Gort, the robot.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that movie? The old one or the new one? But the new one, the old one rather, was better. And Gort was, as his human counterpart described, basically space police. Basically. And actually, in that thing, we're saying they have a very similar message. You guys are about to blow yourselves up 20 times over. We're here to tell you to knock it off. But before that can come out, he gets ironically shot, and the story progresses from there. So, are you aware of, or do you suspect that there is such a police force, a policing authority out in the galaxy?
I'm actually Googling something right now. Hang on.
Okay, sure.
I want to get the time frame on that film.
54, 55.
Well, that was 2008. I want the original one.
No, the original.
1951. Look, this is notable. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, please.
Roswell's 47, right?
Yeah.
The press release goes out. A lot of newspapers cover it. It's shot down almost immediately. Ramey gives the second press conference. This is a weather balloon.
Yeah.
And it kind of calms down. So that's 47, 48. But it's bubbling. We know that the amount of activity in the skies was almost certainly increasing. There were more sightings as you move forward, 48, 49, 50. You had, of course, prior to Roswell, you had the famous sightings over Mount Rainier, Arnold. But there were other sightings. People didn't have cameras back then at the ready all the time. Right. But the reports were kind of coming in here and there. So I've always believed the activity was picking up. So it's 48, 49. So the movie probably got filmed in 50. And so one of the very first post-Roswell movies, right? Not the Buck Rogers stuff that was in you'd watch in front of a movie back before Roswell, which didn't really have ETs in them, except there was sort of an ET, but it looked human, whatever. But anyway, that's sci-fi stuff, early sci-fi. One of the very first movies that comes out is exactly that theme. All right. Mm-hmm. We dropped the bombs on Hiroshima, 45. 6 years later, we have a film about the fact that an ET comes to Earth and says, look, guys, this is not going to go well, right? This is not going to work out for you. We've been around. We know things. And so I'm just going to, let's head this off right now, right? Let's stop it. The screenwriter, whoever wrote that, and I could easily find out,
I'll jump on that.
Logically, just saw the obvious right away. And that was one of the earliest films. Now, there have been a few others like that. Probably the remake with Keanu Reeves. By the way, I liked a lot. I love that film, the second remake, which is 2008. This is like many years later. The arms race is like exploded. Okay, we've been almost had nuclear war a couple of times, and so now they remake the show. Now the thing about the second remake with Keanu Reeves, which I think it was 2008. After all the arms race and everything we've done and the wars and the stuff that have taken place, the proxy wars in all those years, the second one was more severe. And a lot of people didn't pick up on that. In other words, it wasn't like, we've given you a warning. Now Gort and I are going to get in the thing. I'm going to fly away. Right. No. In the second one, right, we're not getting the message. Okay, we're not doing it. We're trying to destroy Gort. All of a sudden, he dissolves into a self-replicating swarm that is able to just go and literally destroy anything, all right, particularly people, or even people. And so they're trying to dodge that. And as you know, finally, she pleads with him, please stop it. Please stop. Remember, on this show, unlike I think the first the day the Earth stood still, we have these instances where all the life forms were being taken up. In other words, they were taking the life from the planet and they were rising up, right, and being collected. Yeah. In other words, they were collecting the life DNA from the planet because they were about to destroy the planet.
So
All
they
right.
wanted a
So
record
there'd be
of
something
everything that
left.
lived on it. Yeah.
And so, so now that's happening when she's pleading. And so finally he agrees and he does something and he stops it. And then a lot of people missed what happens next. Essentially, the price that we were going to pay was that all of our technology was going to be destroyed. All of our technology was going to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Meaning that stuff was going to eat the metals and the tech or whatever the hell. Anyway, we're going to go back to basics. Now, obviously, the planet's got a population, I don't know, call it 6 billion, and you're going to go back to basics. That means a good 3 to 4 billion are not going to last very long. All right. Heavy price. However, the human race would continue, and then we could rebuild, might take 1,000 years. That's the ending that a lot of people did not get. It was extremely severe. And the reason it was more severe is that this is much later. And we ignored the first movie, right? We should have watched that movie and our legislators should have said, oh boy, I get that. We got to change our ways. No, we weaponized the whole planet. We had all kinds of war, killed millions of people. And now he comes back and says, okay, here's another chance. I'm going to stop this, but you're going to lose all your tech and you're going to suffer like hell, but you're going to learn how to live off the land and live off plants and make little tents for yourself and just get back to nature, meditate, but you got no tech, right? Unless you can rebuild it, but that's not going to be easy. So that I'm glad you brought that up because the fundamental message that I have come to understand literally was represented right there in a film only 4 years after Roswell.
Right. And there's one of the posters from that film, and it was stunning. And it really did, I think, accurately portray the reaction. The army comes in, everyone's on edge, guns up, and one guy's finger slips and almost causes complete and total Armageddon. I mean, wow. Wow. And then there's the message itself. Clean up your act.
Okay. I know. It was amazing.
Yeah.
We need to spend more time on that. There needs to be more thought put into that film and studied more. It was the fundamental reaction that we would have and should have to what was taking place. We just dropped 2 nuclear bombs on men, women, and children. Most of them were non-combatants. Maybe 90% were non-combatants.
That's true.
That's very true. The ones that survived wished they hadn't. It was as bad as it gets. It was the ultimate act, and America did it. Okay, which is interesting. Okay, because we're the good guys. And if we're the good guys and can do that, let's contemplate what the bad guys are capable of doing. Yeah. So overall, it was just an ominous beginning. And here's where it gets weird for me. I've said this story a couple of times. It's true. And that is that for whatever reason, which I didn't even do the math until 10 years ago, 12 years ago, roughly, no more than that. I never did the math. And here's how it goes. My father is in the Pacific as a Navy corpsman, working the med thing, not a doctor, probably in a hospital ship. He was at Guadalcanal, but I don't think he went, he never talked about it. He never talked about anything. But I don't think he went on land. He didn't go on land. He was working on a hospital ship doing whatever. Okay. Still traumatic because they bring the wounded back and they're not in good shape. Yeah. So, and he's in the Pacific, and then we drop the bombs, which allows the war to come to an end, and they muster out the troops. And so it takes, they got hundreds of thousands of troops over there, and it takes a while to muster them out. They just don't give them a ticket home. Yeah. It took months. And so the bombs go off in August, September, October. Probably doesn't get back to Mare Island until, I don't know, maybe November, what have you. So he gets back to Mare Island, and he has to be reassigned. So he's there for a short time, and they reassign him to Bethesda, the Bethesda Naval Hospital. He's a corpsman. Sure. So he has to drive across country You know, we're talking.
They didn't fly him out, really? That's funny.
No. Yeah, drives across the country.
Train.
He gets to Bethesda, I think around late January or something.
Okay.
You know, after this is 46 after the war is over because of the, and he's been out in the Pacific for a couple of years, and so it shouldn't surprise anybody that he's there. He immediately starts heading downtown to the local clubs.
Yeah.
Immediately. He didn't waste any time. And when he went to one of those clubs, and I know the club, my mother was there. And my mother was a very attractive woman. Hard to believe when you look at me, but she was a very attractive woman. And he ain't wasting any time. Okay. He meets her, bada bing, bada bam. And I get conceived in, I think, roughly February of 1946. Why? Because the war ended, 6 months prior, and it takes time to get home. And so the straight line from that, and I'm conceived. Okay, thank you, atomic bombs. Right? You don't drop those bombs, the war goes on, I don't get bored.
Right.
So now 9 months later, out I come. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Early December. And it was 6 months, a little more than 6 months after I'm born, Roswell happens. And so essentially, I was conceived about 6 months after the bombs were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I was born 6 months before Roswell takes place, literally in the middle of this thing that was going on, right?
Yeah.
And of course, I like to think of myself as a nuclear child. In other words, any child that has a kind of a direct line to the nuclear weapons use makes them sort of a nuclear child, okay, in a way. And so I'm this nuclear child heading forward in time with no idea that 49 years later, I would make the decision from various reasons to jump into this issue, knowing that it was tied to the nuke stuff, but not having a proper understanding. And then in short amount of time, melded the two together, tied it all up. And I'm going, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I'm not the only one, right? The president of the United States, I think, not Hillary, but I think Bill Clinton, and there's several other pretty major figures that were born almost at that same time. They are nuclear children as well. They were born between the bombs in Hiroshima and Roswell. What can I say? And they're baby boomers. They're extreme baby boomers. In other words, you're literally born after the war end. So, but we all have that connection. And it's interesting that the Clintons are pretty much in that same connection. One of them is definitely in that zone, and they are the first the first White House, which I include Hillary because she was obviously a very significant first lady. That was the first White House really approached in a big way to try to bring the files out by Rockefeller, and so the Clintons have a very powerful tie to this issue, and they were born in that same zone like me, baby boomers between the two. It's interesting. Trump is also in that zone. He was born in that zone between the bombs in Hiroshima and Roswell. And somehow we're all tied up now in this act that's unfolding, playing different roles. And the question is, how is it going to turn out? It's still up in the air. It is still up in the air. Yeah. If World War III escalates, if World War III starts to expand, there's already like 10 countries involved, 12 countries involved. It could be 15 very soon. And if they block the Strait of Hormuz for very long, it's starting to start squeezing every country on the planet. It's going to create all kinds of unrest and pain, and people are going to be unhappy. You're going to have riots, in major capitals. Will the ETs take action? Well, we see it in ET response to another one. They're going, really a third World War? You really want to do a third World War after all we've been doing all this time, all showing ourselves and whatever, giving you all these messages, shutting your nukes down, and you're going to have another one? They may go, all right, look, we need to talk. And so they may engage us. There may be some sort of another level of engagement. But that is the kind of optimism that gets you killed. I'm not assuming it.
Yeah.
This is my worldview. I'm going to stick with it until I learn otherwise. People can come with other explanations.
There's, I appreciate everything you just said. That's fantastic, and I agree with the notion. You know, I want the best possible outcome. Absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't? But I no but. Ignore my but. That was Mish has joined us in the chat. Thanks. Yeah, that's an interesting statement you just made. But
let me restate something very quickly.
Sure.
Increasingly, it looks like the final resolution of this embargo and all that it entails is coming down and in the hands of people born between the dropping of the bombs in Japan and the Roswell event. Literally born in that period. It's like 12 months. I find that amazing.
That is pretty. If you want to call it a coincidence, you can call it that. That's fantastic. I mean, and you're right. It's strange, the timing, and I don't think it's just the president and you. I think a lot of the world leaders involved, actually, to one degree or another, are actually kind of in that same circle, if I'm not mistaken. I might be. But,
you're either 79 or 80. Look, when Hillary Clinton goes in to give that testimony, finally on a camera, right, that was going to be shown, she got one of the members asked her about the Roswell thing because they knew about the Rockefeller Initiative. I'll take some credit for that, Grant Cameron, whoever. And at that point, she had to give a response, and it was not an unreasonable response. It's one of the few question responses that was kind of okay. And so in that moment, this woman born between Roswell and the atomic bomb drops is answering a question on the issue that eventually goes out to the public. I love this kind of connection. We started this, so it's appropriate that we end it. Okay, in a sense, we started this, right? It's people. Well, I say we. How can I put this? No, it's not that we started it. Our ancestors started it. In other words, it's called the greatest generation. The people that gave birth to me and her and Trump and all the others, the greatest generation, they gave birth to us. They're the ones that started that war. Right? Yeah. Obviously, we did. They started it. We get born, and it's almost like it's our job to resolve it. Right, to end this process. The last generation that before there are no more world wars. We finally put that completely aside as we approach. Now, this next, if we do have another world war here, well, guess who's going to get a lot of the blame for that? Yeah. My generation, right? Mm-hmm. The old and the wise guys who could have done a lot of things differently in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, but instead we just kept doing the same old thing. As well as the next generation, the X's, we're the ones that are going to have created this war. So I don't want to be responsible for this next war. I'm doing everything I can to not be responsible.
I agree. I'm X too, and I don't want to be a part of it. Not as far as being part of that generation that should have done something better. With regard to this, and we're kind of touching on what Mish in the comments has been saying regarding the Hormuz blockade, or whatever you want to call it. Is this going to, and this is slightly related to disclosure, but is this going to force perhaps a DARPA initiative release of new technologies to overcome the energy deficit?
No, no.
Just curious.
There would be, in other words, even if they had some technology that they've understood that is advanced based upon ET craft re-engineering or something, the time it would take to roll that out, get it in place, make it effective, still all hell is going to be breaking loose around the world. It's not going to prevent that. There's another possibility. They can build a pipeline across peninsula or the other side, Gulf of Aden. They could just send the oil that way, right? Or they could truck it, except that the amount of trucks you need to actually convey that much is an unbelievable number of trucks. And so they do not have a way to deal with this problem. And not even ET tech rolled out could be converted, being able to supply energy in such a way that is dramatically reducing the oil before all hell breaks loose. It's a simple math. It's simple geography. They've closed down that strait a couple of times, I believe, but the circumstances were unpleasant. There were some grievances. Now it's holy war, basically.
Yeah.
When you blow up the entire leadership of the country, that has the ability to control that strait. You've just given them license to essentially close it down completely. And it's going to be almost impossible to stop this. There's just all you got to do is hit one of those oil tankers with one Shahad drone. So unless they can stop every single drone that they fly at those ships, it's going to hit and they're going to set them on fire. You're going to have flaming tankers all over. And of course, as they slowly sink and whatever the hell, the Strait of Hormuz becomes completely impassable without even getting into mine laying. In other words, it was a miscalculation on the part of our war leaders. They didn't do the math on the Strait of Hormuz. They didn't really look ahead enough. And so there you go. Now, the nations that have a lot of oil already in-house, they're going to be able to supply their needs. Everybody else is going to get screwed, and they're going to get very angry at the nations that are hoarding their oil because they're not going to give it away, right? They're going to be going into the reserves. And so the ultimate oil crisis that people have been talking about for decades and all of the terrible things that would come for it is just about to manifest in full and give a whole lot of countries reasons to do some very nasty things in order to somehow survive, right? That means taking over another country's oil fields, whatever, I don't know. But this is a catastrophe in the making, and it's the kind of thing that gets you to a new war. Similar things happened World War I, World War II. It's not just, you fired a lot of shots and people got mad, so let's all go to war. No, the ramp up includes things that are literally starting to create problems for multiple countries. And the net result is everybody's well-being is in play. And so at some point, everybody goes existential. In other words, we're gonna protect our interests and we're gonna kill anybody that's not in that zone. And that's where things are going. And then as the world is completely tied up with the unbelievable crisis that a full blockade extended of the Strait of Hormuz would create, China makes its move on Taiwan. Okay.
Yeah.
Boom. All right. And Russia possibly decides to invade the Balkans or any number of things, or even accelerate the situation in the Ukraine, because who can deal with it at that point?
Right.
This is global chaos. This is World War III. And then the only hope we have is that as all this pain and suffering and death is going on, nobody decides to toss a nuke into it, right?
Yep.
Tactical, short term, doesn't matter, short distance. Nobody throws a nuke into that mix. And boy, I don't want to have a bet on that.
Yeah, I hear you. We in the comments we have Mish, who's from Australia, and she says that her country has 30 days of fuel left, and so the city folk are mad that the country folk needed to keep producing food and stuff and all that fun stuff. I just saw a report that could ease some of this. There was a issue about insurance for these oil tankers in Hormuz, and that's one of the reasons they're not moving. Apparently, that was just resolved because we're throwing $20 billion in insurance and naval escort into making that happen. Whether that's active or not, I don't know. But, I mean,
Sure.
okay, so
Sure.
there's that. But
So we're gonna have a naval escort, and they're gonna be shooting all those drones down. In other words, you don't. At this point, I think Iran understands. Look, instead of firing these missiles and drones out at all these countries that hold our bases, which is pissing those countries off.
Yes, it is.
And instilling minor casualties. We just need to sink or set on fire every friggin' tanker that we can, so that they start focusing their drone and missile on tankers, right? And these are short-term targets, short-distance targets, right? They're not long-distance.
Right.
I'm not so sure that we have the capability to shoot them down. So they send off 50 or 100. They only have to have one that hits. It's an oil tanker.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's an oil tanker.
Yeah.
All right. And so you could have a situation where you could have, well, they're just not gonna sail. They're just not going to sail. Yeah, I'm insured, but what good is the? Well, let me put it this way: we will insure.
You can't put money in your gas tank.
I mean, well, and once we're having to pay out billions and billions of dollars to cover the losses of flaming tankers sinking in the Gulf, it's straight up on news. American people are going to go, what? Right? I mean, let me tell you. This is not going to end well. I have been saying that about a number of things. I get it. Our human need to destroy and commit mayhem and slaughter has been around forever. But this is not going to end well. I don't know how. In other words, they can reach a peace agreement really quick with Iran, something. Okay, let's agree. You do this, we'll do that, whatever. Just don't. They're going to sink every friggin' tanker out there, and I say sink. They just need to set them on fire. They don't need to sink. All right, and the oil is going to stop, and then all hell breaks loose. I say that a major portion of the oil is going to stop. Meanwhile, the countries that have oil are going to hoard. I mean, Trump has already indicated that he's going to unleash 40 billion barrels of our reserve oil, okay, in order to keep the prices down until that runs out, right? And then what? So this is something that has to be resolved very fast. But what has been done has put Iran in a state of mind, clearly, that they don't care what you do to them. We're going to close that strait, right? And until we run out of drones and missiles, and they've still got plenty. If they start focusing those drones, just focus them on the Strait of Hormuz. They don't need to blow up any bases, right? Until they're gone, or we somehow destroy them all. But they actually set one on fire with a boat. I mean, they just crashed a boat into it. Now they could be taken out. I can see our destroyers just taking out these boats.
Yeah.
This sounds like almost a comedy movie, right?
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
It's called Hormuz, right? And it's a comedy movie about how the world sort of comes to an end, and people are shooting boats, and then things are flying and everything else. Meanwhile, the guys are giving up, and they're on the ship getting drunk, watching the damn things, go up.
Right.
This was not thought through.
It doesn't seem that way, does it?
It was not fully thought through and may go badly. All right. So I take no joy in that.
Me either.
All I can say is the president of the United States could disclose the ET presence tomorrow. And if he did, I don't see it making things worse. But it is one hell of a new variable in the equation.
Yeah.
It may cause people to step back for a second and say, let's take a pause.
Yeah.
Tell me again. We have extraterrestrials here. We have tech. Really? Okay. That's interesting. Okay. And then who knows? Right. I don't know. I know that it can't hurt. It's not like, disclosing the ET presence, confirming whether it comes from President Trump or Xi Jinping or Putin or whoever else. it's like people are going to blow up more tankers. I mean, so we have this, and don't think of it as a distraction. Don't think of it as like a diversion. It's more than that. It's virtually a change in perspective of profound intensity. It's a paradigm shift of unprecedented proportion.
Yeah, it's existential, really. I mean, it's an existential paradigm shift. Absolutely.
Well, I heard about the existential in the reverse case. In other words, it is a paradigm shift that points us towards life, not the loss of it. In other words, existential.
I'm sorry. Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
It's still existential, and it has existential implications if you use it as a way to interrupt your latest, dive off the cliff.
Right.
So, and the president can do it tomorrow, but he's not the only head of state that can do it. I can't believe I'm having this discussion. I'm going to say the same thing in the next interview, in the next 15 I have, because to me,
bring up Gort.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Literally comes down to that,
yeah,
right?
It does.
So ETs could sweep in and suddenly put about 20 saucers over the state of Hormuz and make it clear, don't do this. No, we're letting the ships in, right? Once you stop this shit, we're going to fly away for a while. We'll get back, but we're going to fly away. For now, we can't let the energy source of the planet go down, because that's going to make a lot of chaos. That would be disclosure. People, oh my God, they are here. Then they fly away. And then that would probably be something to think about as we decide, should we continue this war? Let's start it up. I don't know. Right. All of this is got a sci-fi and a Hollywood movie quality to it that is kind of interesting and almost amusing, except that it's real. Really, real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We will see. Just to get an idea on our time, you have an interview right after this. Is that correct?
I've got 18 more minutes.
Okay, fantastic.
And I just switch right over. No big deal.
Right on. Let's see here. Let me look at my notes real quick. Okay, so one of the, is that really the larger solution on the human side of things then? Because it's Carr brings that up in our, hey Carr, if I didn't say hi to you before, brings up that free energy is the way to go if we can come up with it. Some say we have it already. Some say it's, we see this stuff on the internet all the time about these magnetic infinity machines and how much, I don't know how much power they can generate, but is that really is that what's going to stop all this? At least one part of this craziness that is the human need to dominate, I guess, to change the energy paradigm, what it is we use for power.
Well, energy is the single most important component of existence.
Yeah.
Really. Subtract the energy from anything, it's over. But in terms of a complex civilization, energy is essential to everything. It's part of, without energy, I don't have this glass, don't have the computer, don't have that, can't have toothpaste, I'm nothing, right? You need energy to do all this stuff. Okay, fine. So it's essential. And it's a huge commercial reality. In capitalism, it's a major profit creator. So, but it's more than that. It's existential, it's national security, and it also makes money. Okay, now, there may be, my jury is still out, there may be some significant energy breakthroughs that have occurred in the garage of this or that individual, or a backwoods lab or something, and got squashed because it was going to harm the ability of a company or somebody to make money. Right. That could have happened. I think most of these, in fact, don't gel out that way. They don't play out that way if they were really properly studied, but there may be a couple. And this is not unusual. There's lots of ways that companies will squash competition that'll affect their outcome. Yeah. It's illegal, okay? But hey, what else is new? So it's right to be concerned about that, but that is not the motivating factor and drive why tankers are on fire,
right,
in the Strait of Hormuz, or that major moves are being made in various countries to possibly take territory and cause a huge amount of problems. We have a fundamental built-in disposition towards war. We love it, as I think I can't get the quote exactly right in Patton when the guy playing Patton says, war, I love it so. There is nothing right in the affairs of men that compares with it. One of the great statements all time in any film. We are inducted to it. We are in ways that are so complex, and so we are incredibly dangerous and destructive. We have made progress, right? In many ways, but painful progress. It took so long. And in this period when we were creating more peace, I could just say, more nations that are not engaged in war, we still killed millions of people and held proxy wars, lots of them.
Yeah.
So we are the most dangerous animal on the planet, the most dangerous animal to ourselves. And as I've said, if we ever get star drive, we're now dangerous to other parts of the galaxy. I mean, which is kind of where it had to go. And so at that point, what do? I mean, you have to deal with us, right? They have dealt with us before, but not under this circumstance. This is different. Okay. The Egyptians were not a threat to anybody outside of our solar system, not even close, right? Yep. Now we're almost there. So it's all coming to a head. And I think it would have been resolved sooner if Truman had simply confirmed the announcement.
You're speaking of his dentist trip.
No, that was Eisenhower.
Oh, that was Eisenhower.
Or Eisenhower. Either way, if either Eisenhower or Truman had confirmed this, we would not be in the place we're in right now. Okay. It was an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
They made the decision to go the other way. Who can second guess that? I mean, you have to go back and be in their shoes at the time. But we went the other way, and the result is that we're still even deeper into the ditch. Still digging. And still
Say
digging.
Say again. I'm sorry.
We're still in that ditch and still digging.
We need to dig out of the ditch. Excuse me. Mish, one of our people, made an interesting comment. I'll put it up for everyone to read. Is this all, and I assume this the chaos in not the Mediterranean, but the Orion area happening so we don't see the asteroid hit Earth? I'm not sure which asteroid she's referring to, because I'm sure 3i Atlas and all that has come and gone. But do you think? Do you really? Is that a possibility that this is all a smoke screen for something else?
No.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
There may be things hit Earth.
Yeah.
Right. Depends on how big it is. There was an asteroid that came close, and that was talked about. Mm-hmm. But no, it's not about that. The forces and dynamics involved in this are long and ancient, broad. Hell, if a decent-sized asteroid would hit Earth, could be a good thing, right? I mean, not too big, just big enough to really get our attention. And everybody's going to step back and go, Jesus Christ! I mean, let's chill.
Yeah.
All right. And there'll be a lot of whatever, and maybe we'll all get together to fix the damage from it, and get the I don't know. What can I say? As I say, it is. I try to keep it basic. Right. I try not to add any gadgets onto my, theories. Right. Unnecessary knobs, and make it look like that. What is that device? And Doctor Who?
The TARDIS.
The TARDIS. Right. It's got all those knobs and stuff in there. I know. It makes it look more interesting. Now, I want as few knobs as possible. So.
I gotcha. The I love the idea of the TARDIS. Oops, gosh, I keep hitting my mic. Sorry, everyone. The idea, how am I going to put this? The idea that we could at least pause and perhaps self-reflect if grand disclosure happens, or even if the aliens, take the other side of the disclosure and just show up en masse in our skies and say, "Hey, is that really going to?" And you kind of answered this, but is that really going to make that big of a difference? I mean, it's going to make us pause. Our reality is going to shift a little. But I mean, do you foresee, or at least have that? I think I asked the question like 5 different times. Please.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Sorry.
Danny Sheehan and I are both of the opinion that the worldview change will be profound. It will start off slow, but it'll build. Because this is no non-trivial piece of information. And it's not just information. What comes with that truth is a whole lot of expectation of other things happening, right? Where things might be going, including open contact, in which you actually, now you're much more you're starting to get real information, what's going on, what's the agenda, potential technology, so forth. So
Okay.
it will affect, but how, to what extent? How, I don't know.
Okay.
To what extent will we utilize this worldview change in order to make the other changes? So we stop being the stupid, destructive little, I'm trying to keep my language good, children. We don't know, but I want to find out. Let's find out. Let's just do it and find out.
I'm all for that. Let us find out. That would be fantastic. One final thing that kind of leading into this, and this kind of goes back to our Gort Dated Earth Stood Still discussion a bit earlier, which, if you missed it, feel free to watch it once we're done with the show here. Let's briefly discuss predictive programming in our film and TV across the globe. Really, it's everybody seems to be participating in this thing, and for a while, like in the 80s, Steven Spielberg's E.T. We had the friendly E.T.
Sure.
We had a few of those guys out there, and then it was Alien and Predator and all these destructive aliens. So, do you think there was if this is in fact what's happening, do you think there was a larger behind the scenes paradigm shift happening to where it was, the aliens are going to be on our side, or they're friendly, or oh no, wait, no, they're monstrous and going to kill us all?
No, the most important thing about those films, 600 at least, 600 films, sci-fi with ETs in them. I mean, there are a lot of other sci-fi films that didn't have ETs.
Yeah.
But there were at least almost 600 that did, making, I don't know, I need to research it again, but it could be $200 billion or something in revenues, could be even more than that. The most important thing that those films did is completely inundate the world with the concept of aliens or extraterrestrials, all right? Non-humans from out there, so that it saturated it. Whether they're good, they're bad, or anything else, the idea of an alien was not. People say, well, there may be beings out in space. What? I said, no, right? We've been seeing them fly around, do this so that the whole world has been indoctrinated on the idea of aliens through those films, and so that was their principal effect, non-trivial. Some were evil, some weren't evil. Most were evil, some weren't evil. Whatever.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, the idea of ETs is now universal. And of course, the idea of UFO, not simply because it's based on movies, but also in all the research docs and everything else, is pretty much universal. 90+%, maybe 95% of the people on this planet, even ones living in some remote areas, know what ET means, whatever the language, and knows what UFO means. So in that sense, we're indoctrinated. And now go forward. So that's non-trivial. Now, the government played a little bit, messed around a little bit with some of those films if they didn't like something and so forth. But overall, that's not that important in the larger frame. I don't think it affected the truth embargo. I don't think it affected the disclosure process that much. that they would screw with a picture about something. Overall, though, those films will prove to be a very important component. And when we go to post-disclosure world, and obviously in the post-disclosure world, we'll find out how evil the aliens are. And it's likely that we'll find out, now they're not so bad.
Yeah.
In fact, we like them, right?
Yeah.
We might go, I can relate to those guys. I mean, they're pretty cool. They're not too bad. It's like, and next thing you know, people are having, alien, appreciation parties, and, writing
I
poems.
like it.
Because humans are obviously just nasty sons of bitches. I mean, we know that, right? You find it nice when you hang on to them. But ETs, that would be interesting. So let us find out. Anybody in the government that feels we don't have the right to find out right now needs to step back, chill, right? Have a cocktail.
Get a beer.
Make sure you watch the new movie that Spielberg is coming out with very soon.
Do you know anything about it? I don't know that much about it.
Well, I know one thing about it. Disclosure Day is my turn.
Oh, they ripped you off. Oh, man.
20 years ago, I created World Disclosure Day. It's up on my website now. It's an honored disclosure, right? World UFO Day existed. I wanted World Disclosure Day. So I called it World Disclosure Day, which is the day that we get the confirmation from a head of state. Nice. And so naturally, when I saw the movie ended up being called Disclosure Day, I was very proud. I'm thinking, one way or another, they kind of slipped in, and then I'm thinking, okay, pride is one thing. Yeah. 0.25% of the gross is another thing. Yeah. Right. So I'm, said what,
where's your piece of the pie, man?
Yeah. But I didn't trademark it.
Okay.
I didn't trademark World Disclosure Day because, again, I'm an idiot and I'm just a nonprofit guy moving through time, not wanting to accumulate wealth that will distract me from my core mission. But maybe even a lunch or something, and just maybe Musso and Frank get one of those beautiful steaks they got. Just me and Steven just chatting.
There you go. Just chatting it up. Talk about his first major alien film, which was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I mean, he's always. Alan Hynek was the advisor on that. I didn't know that until very recently. It's fantastic.
Spielberg has always danced around this issue in complex ways. I think overall his contribution has been good. With his money and influence, he could have really pushed the disclosure process. He chose not to. I'm not going to criticize him for that. But he's landing on Disclosure Day, and we may have disclosure before then, because as I'm saying, if I'm the president, if I'm an advisor to the president, or if an advisor is talking to me, I'm only 2 blocks from the White House. I can just walk over and we go up to the press club and have a chat. Right, I'm going to say, look, you got a shitstorm going here, unless you've got an easy answer to the Strait of Hormuz, and you don't. You need to talk to the president about something he fully well knows about, and let's end this embargo, and see if the effect of that could mitigate the behavior that's now generating what's going on. The hatred's not going to go away overnight. But nevertheless, people need something larger to look forward to look past their hatreds, their anger, their pain, and what has happened to them. And that would be something along those lines. So, it's in play. It's my advice to the president: free, no charge.
No charge.
Close the ET presses tomorrow. I'm telling you, it ain't going to hurt things. It's not going to make anything worse.
Oh, absolutely not.
I have to shift over to the next interview.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Stephen.
Enjoyed it. Love the background, man. So good.
Thank you.
All right.
I do what I can.
Until next time.
Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tim Sedano. This is Paranormal Insight. That's my name right there. This is Paranormal Insight. That was Stephen Bassett talking about Capital D Disclosure Day. Have a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next time. If you have a paranormal experience that you would like to discuss on the show, please email us at paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com. That's paranormal.insight.podcast@gmail.com.